But what I want you to understand, once you take performance-enhancing drugs and you then stop them, you are not considered to be natural. Coach Greg, in today's video, we're talking about Bakhar Nabieva, one of my favorites. This girl, she's tattooed up, she's super hot, has over 4 million followers, and admittedly, she's taken performance-enhancing drugs in the past, but for the last 6 months, she's stopped taking those steroids. At least she says she has, but she perhaps has taken something else. And so the question remains, can she be now considered to be natural? And so good old Kenny KO approaches her at the Mr. Olympia.
Natural or not?
And he asked the question, are you natty or are you not? And I'm sure he already knew the answer. She's already in the past admitted to taking performance-enhancing drugs. But many people, they perhaps never heard of this woman. But first of all, no wonder people think she's not natural. Have you all seen her physique? Have you seen how amazing she looks? And one thing you'll notice is that she looks very feminine. And so just because you take steroids doesn't mean that, for example, you're going to look like a man. She's very feminine, has feminine features, and so many people would assume this girl's natural. I mean, she doesn't grow a beard, and so how come you think she's not natural? Well, the size and shape of her body is the reason we're thinking these things.
Natural or not?
Off cycle.
And her response to are you natty or not is, I'm off cycle. Many people, when taking steroids, they go on and off cycles. Perhaps they're blasting and cruising, but sometimes people go completely off. Oftentimes, the train of thought is time on equals time off. And so if you were to take a steroid cycle for 12 weeks, you might go off for 12 weeks. And so if somebody says, are you natural? And you say, yes, I'm off cycle. Does that actually make sense? Can you actually say you're natural if you took steroids in the past and that you're not on them right now? I don't think so. I don't think that is fair to say. And considering the things that people are injecting, it can take several weeks, months, and or years to get out of your system. Even though you've been off for several months, doesn't mean the steroids that you took previously are not working right now.
For a long time or short time frame?
6 months.
Have you noticed a difference between how you feel now versus 6 months ago?
With Anavar, I don't see a big difference.
And so consider this. She's not actually off everything. She's still taking Anavar. But what she took previously, as she admits, I'm not making this shit up, she was on injectables. I'm not going to say what they are. Perhaps it was testosterone, primobolan, deca. We don't know. We don't care. But she was formerly taking stronger drugs in higher doses that put on more muscle. And so right now, in her off season, perhaps this is her cruise phase, she's only taking Anavar.
If I compare the things that I used before, which is injections, Anavar doesn't really give me big size.
And so in comparison to those injections, she's not going into detail. And remember, we appreciate the fact that she's being dishonest. Most women would have just said, yeah, I'm natural, or get out of my face. I don't want to talk about this. And so she's very open and transparent. And so I respect her greatly. Do not take this video as to me trying to make fun of her or somehow trying to put her down. And so what she states is, in comparison to the steroids that she took previously, those injectables, taking Anavar, in comparison, it does almost nothing for her. Now remember, if you never took anything in your entire life and you suddenly took Anavar, you would be thinking, oh my goodness, look at the muscle I'm putting on. Look at how I feel. It's doing wonders for my physique. And so when you get used to taking stronger drugs and you lower dose, it pales in comparison. This is very similar to, for example, when I was taking steroids in the past and I lowered my dose to what I do right now, which is 140 milligrams of testosterone a week. I don't feel like I'm taking something. It doesn't feel like I was blasting things in the past. But if you, for the first time, took 140 milligrams of test a week, as I'm doing, you most certainly would feel like you're taking something. You would say, wow, I feel a lot better. My testosterone levels are going up. I feel more energy. I just feel better. And you would, in fact, put on more muscle. And so for me, I am absolutely not natural. Despite the fact my doctor prescribed my testosterone dose, I am not natural.
Is that what people are doing now? Going, hey, I'm natural, but I'm on TRT?
And so because Bakhar is still taking Anavar and the fact that she was taking injectables previously, she's most certainly not natural right now.
It just gives me a little more quality, if that makes sense, but I still soft.
And so what she says the Anavar is doing, it's giving her a little bit more quality right now. a little bit. And so here's the thing. It's been so long since Bakhar's been 100% natural that she forgets just how good Anavar really is. And remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling you to take Anavar. And in fact, do not take Anavar. Do not break the law and only use these products with the advice and consent of your doctor. And I'm not your doctor. And notice she pinches the legs and she feels like she's a little soft. One thing I often bring up is body dysmorphia. Once you've used performance enhancing drugs and you're used to seeing that incredible physique, it's very difficult to go back to your former self. And so despite the fact that she's still on Anavar, she still doesn't feel like she's as hard. She doesn't have that same pop to her muscles as she once had. But remember, she used to take injectables. She's never going to have that same look if she goes down to lower doses or weaker steroids such as Anavar, or perhaps goes off everything. But I can tell you right now, if she were to take nothing in comparison to taking Anavar, she would quickly realize just how good Anavar really is. And so one thing that often happens when people take steroids is they underestimate just how good those steroids really are. She's saying it's a little bit more quality, a little bit more hardness, but look, I'm still soft. I'm telling you right now, if you were 100% natural your entire life and you took something like 20 milligrams of Anavar a day for 3 or 4 months, you would be shocked at the transformation you would make. I'm not saying you wouldn't experience side effects, for example, a deeper voice, facial hair growth, perhaps clitoral enlargement of the Adam's apple, acne, and so on. But I'm telling you, the amount of muscle you can put on with 20 milligrams, which is in fact a high dose, and many women, even bikini competitors, are taking far greater doses of this, close to 50 milligrams. The amount of difference that this would make is shocking. Even 5 milligrams a day for a female, if you've never taken it before, you did 5 milligrams for a couple months, it'd be unreal the gains you would make. I would estimate you would make more gains in 2 or 3 months on 5 milligrams than you would make in an entire year if you're training natural. And so just look at her physique. Look as she grabs her legs. Do you not see the quad muscles hanging off her legs? She looks phenomenal. She has incredible muscle development. But for her, this is a soft look, one of which she's maintaining by using Anavar. And so perhaps in the future, she's going to again take in injectables, or perhaps she's not. Perhaps she's done with those days. Perhaps she's getting older, no longer wants to use or perhaps abuse performance-enhancing drugs, and she wants to go 100% natural.
Forever natural now.
Am I considered natural though?
Let me preface this by saying I don't think Bakhar thinks she's natural. I'm not saying she thinks that. So many people are going to hate messages every time I make a video on somebody, trying to explain things, trying to talk about that. Oh, you're just hating on her. You're saying this, you're saying that. I'm just making a freaking video trying to educate you.
Off cycle.
For a long time or short time frame?
6 months.
And in case you're wondering, 6 months off cycle is a very long time. Many people to go off cycle for perhaps 6 weeks, perhaps 12 weeks. That, in fact, is a long time. But for the first 6 weeks when you come off, the esters that you were injecting, they're probably not even cleared out of your system yet. So despite the fact that you said, oh yeah, I've been off for 6 weeks, I'm maintaining really well. You're maintaining really well because the drugs you had injected 6 weeks ago, they still haven't cleared out of your system yet. And so you're still reaping its benefits. It takes perhaps 6 weeks before you start to lose gains. Trust me, by week 7, 8, 9, and if you continue for 6 months or up to a year, you are going to lose a shit ton of the gains that you once made. And so oftentimes people are not ready to go off cold turkey. They might say, oh, I'm done with taking cycles. I don't want to do this anymore. You perhaps take a PCT and you go off. But many people, they can't handle that, both mentally and physically. To see that incredible physique you once had suddenly wither away and become a smaller version of itself, a smaller, less hard, more body fat, it does not feel good, both physically and mentally. And so sometimes people, they go on smaller doses. In her case, she went from using injectables to just using Anavar. In other cases, people go from doing cycles to perhaps just cruising on a lower dose of testosterone. Perhaps it's 250 milligrams. For many men, it's 500 milligrams. And 500 milligrams is, in fact, a very effective dose. It's higher than many people's cycles would be. But when you're on very high doses and you lower yourself to 500, 500 doesn't feel like much. And perhaps you can go from 500 then to 250, and then perhaps you get a doctor's prescription like Coach Greg, and you're on 100 milligrams, perhaps it's 140. That is what my dose is. Perhaps it's different for you. But what I want you to understand is once you take performance-enhancing drugs and you then stop them, you are not considered to be natural. And if you're still taking something to bridge between cycles, you are also not considered natural. And as you can see, as reported by Bakhar, even if you're taking Anavar, you're not going to feel as good as you once were when you were taking stronger drugs. And so my recommendation, don't take them in the first place. The more you're going to want to take. And once you've taken high doses, taking lower doses is not going to feel nearly as good as you were when you're taking the higher doses. She literally is pointing to her legs and saying she's soft. Does anyone, raise your hand out there. I don't see any hands, anyone that thinks that this is a soft look. She is very hard, very muscular, has very low body fat. But for her, in her own mind, perhaps it's body dysmorphia, she does not feel like she has a hard, lean, incredible looking physique. You can tell she prefers the other look. She would like to have that previous look, but perhaps for health reasons, she decided to no longer use the injectables. Highly recommend you go and check out her content. I know you're going to like it. I like it. I've seen her on Instagram. I've made videos on her in the past. I've covered her in detail. And so if you want to check out those videos, you can also check that. I thought this was a very good video to explain what it feels like to go off cycle and to use smaller, weaker drugs. And so hopefully you found this educational, ending it here. One thing you may want to consider, especially if you're going off cycle or if you're experiencing lower levels of testosterone, is in fact G-test. We do have G-test and 3-test. This can boost your testosterone levels by up to 2 to 400 nanograms per deciliter. These are not the test boosters of old. These ones, they actually work. They are significantly making a difference in people's lives. And it's not just me saying this. Andrew Huberman has spoken to this in details. And so please go and check it out if you're interested in this or any of the harder than last time supplements, such as GO2 Max, Ecti Builder, creatine, protein powder, Sequel bars, all of that. Head over to my website right now. Code Greg, 10% off. Subscribe and click the bell button. Comment to boost the algorithm. Don't forget to watch one of those two bloops. And of course, the cookbooks, the training books, the Circle Diet book, my life's work, how to lose weight and keep it off for the rest of your life. And the cookbook, you know you want that. There's several books, PDF and hard copy. Please enter code Greg to get 10% off. And also the free diet and training program. It's all on my website. You know how to get it. Go and head over there right now. And until next time, I am out.